September. The evenings are drawing in and the mornings are probably feeling a bit cooler than of late. But your veg garden is far from finished. Today we should be looking at what you could be sowing during the month of September, plus the essential monthly jobs that will keep your plot productive. And do stay tuned right to the end, because we have an announcement regarding our channel. September is an exciting month. It's a transitional month. There's still much to harvest, but actually there's still plenty that we can be sowing. I'm asked many times, when does sowing start for the new season? Well, actually, people will tell you many different months, but for me, it's actually August. Back in August, we sowed our onions. That will go on to give us onions next year. They're overwintering onions. And that theme also continues through September, because in the early part of September, you still have time, if you haven't done so yet, to sow some spring onions. These spring onions you will grow on to have a harvest next year. They'll overwinter, they'll get themselves going during October, and then they'll have a little rest and then come back with a vengeance in the new year, and you'll have harvests round about late March and April. Another allium that you look to plant in September, and this will be toward the end of September, that will be your garlic. Garlic has a very long growing season, but by planting it toward the end of September, you'll get a nice early harvest in June. And so where you actually end up planting it, that ground will become free to give you a second crop. In August, we sowed our first batch of rocket, pak choi and tatsoi. Well, now you're in September, get your second batch sown. These will give you succession sowings through all of autumn. The next batch of things that you can sow, these are specifically to grow under cover. It's too late in September to sow some of these to grow outside in your plots. They won't get big enough before you transplant them. But if you have an undercover growing space, whether that be a polytunnel, a greenhouse, or a cold frame that you can grow these in, then this is the time now to sow. You can be sowing things like spinach now and endive, as well as your overwintering lettuces. Arctic King and Winter Density are real favourites for myself and Mrs. W. Along with the overwintering lettuce, there is also the lamb's lettuce. September is also the month to be sowing things like Landcress, mizuna, mustards, and also some kale. And this kale, as I say, it will be to grow undercover. Chervil, coriander, that likes the cooler season, so you should get some good harvest if you sow your coriander and grow it undercover. And also Claytonia. And in September, a succession sowing of turnips and radishes, and also round about mid-month, if you make a final sowing of Florence fennel, they'll give you some bulbs to eat, albeit smaller bulbs, but you'll be able to eat those right at the very end of 2025. The courgettes have been amazing this year. In fact, they still are amazing. As I look down here, I can see there are plenty new ones forming. But as we get toward the end of September, a lot of your crops will be starting to go over. And round about the end of September is a time I'd look to remove these plants. I think we've had enough courgettes for this year, Mrs.
I think we definitely have.
And whenever your crops are finished, Do ensure that you take them right out of the ground. Don't leave them there where they can harbour pests. They can all go to the compost pile and they'll go back to your soil next year. But a good idea at this time of the year is actually to sow some green manure. In the comments, I often see when I talk about food security, and myself and Mrs. W, we try to grow as much of our own vegetables and fruit as we can. And some of you will often say, well, I don't want to do that, I want to give my soil a rest. Well, I would urge you, don't give it a rest. Let it grow something, and something that is going to benefit your soil. And a green manure is one such thing. If you just leave the soil bare, believe you me, your soil will grow something, but it will be weeds. So why not do something productive? I'm going to be sowing some field beans this year and some mustard. And once these crops are removed and I'm not replacing them with anything, I shall transplant these green manures into their position. And they can grow all over autumn and winter, and they shall be gone either by me hoeing them off or chopping them down to the ground in the case of the field beans. But they will have left a lot of goodness in the soil. And during September, we shall actually be producing a video all about green manures. So do look out for that. And the best way to do that is to ensure that you are subscribed to our channel. And don't forget to turn on all your notifications. People often put in the comments that I didn't realise you'd put a video out. All they've done is actually subscribed. You need to click the bell icons and then your notifications are on, and then you will be notified whenever we upload a video. Of course, there's also plenty of jobs to be done in the September garden in order to keep it productive, not just for now, but for the future too. The first such job, if your plots are becoming exhausted and you're not growing a green manure, then at least get your soil prep out of the way with. The more you do now, the less you need to do in the really cold winter months. Autumn is a good time to do your soil prepping when you're no dig. When you're no dig, it's very, very simple. All you do is fill your wheelbarrow with compost and spread about an inch or so layer on top of your growing beds. No digging, no disturbing the soil life, and let the worms do the work. If, like us, you have a pigeon problem, do make sure that your brassicas remain covered. You can see here we favour using the EnviroMesh with the pipes over the stakes. These plants will be up here by the time we harvest them in December and through into the new year, so they need to be fairly tall. The other thing is that with the arrival of September, we start to get into the windy season. You might be able to hear a little bit of it now as we're filming, right here at the very end of August. The winds do start to get up. We tend to see a lot of the tropical storms from the US that make their way over and actually just become windy, wet weather for us during September and October. So, for the plants like these as they get bigger, but more, you can see by our sprouts, they're starting to get quite tall. It's a good idea to put a stake in there. Tie them to that stake so that they don't get the wind rock. You'd be amazed that when you're growing, especially brassicas, a lot of the small tiny hairs, they're the ones that are picking up the nutrients and the watering for the plant's needs. And so every time they get disturbed and they're broken, there's less roots for them to take up those nutrients and water. And therefore you get a smaller harvest. So act now, get the stakes in, tie them up, and then they'll be nice and stable all through the autumn and winter months, and you shall have a nice big bumper harvest. A really important task that you need to be doing in September, and in fact all the way through the rest of this year, and if you've still got them into the new year, is do check your stored produce. We've got onions and garlic and shallots and potatoes, all in storage, and by keeping an eye on them you will then have an early alert. If something's rotting or going mouldy, you can immediately remove that, because believe you me, rot likes to share itself with everything. Now do let us know in the comments what you're going to be sowing in September. Are there some different things in there to what we have offered? As I said at the beginning of the video, we do have a bit of announcement regarding our channel. For those of you that have followed us all through this year, you'll know that my eldest daughter Abby will be married on October the 4th. We have much to do to prepare for that, and especially Mrs. W. So we are going to be taking the channel down to just one video a week, and that's to help us do all the extra jobs that we've now got to do. And for the foreseeable future, it will just be one video a week, and that upload will be on a Thursday at 5:30. Now of course there are times in the gardening calendar when it gets really busy, so it's not to say that we won't put another upload out there aside from our regular Thursday upload. So now more than ever, it's a really good idea to ensure that you are subscribed to the channel and to turn on those notifications so that you'll know whenever we upload a video. We wouldn't want you to miss out on what we're up to in our new dig Norfolk garden, and I know many of you really appreciate the sowing reminders and the tips and hacks that we give you throughout the gardening year. We've talked about the many seeds that you could be sowing in September and the jobs you can be doing, but actually for myself and Mrs. W, it's an exciting month for many reasons, and I wouldn't want you to miss out on those. We have a lot of announcements that will be coming your way during the month of September, things that we think will really benefit you, not us, you, our viewers. So keep watching, because there'll be more ways to be able to get in touch with us, and we shall communicate those every Thursday on our videos at 5:30. No dig gardening really is amazing. We've had some abundant harvest this year, and despite the lack of rainfall, the harvests have really come in, and there's no doubt about it that no dig has really helped with that, because when it does rain we have a mulch over the top of our beds, so the rain just trickles through and into our soil. It doesn't evaporate in the hot sunshine, all that hot sunshine that we've experienced this year. If you want to see just how great those harvests have been, then watch this video next.